Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode number 111 of From the Middle. If you're just joining us for the first time, we are a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview-style podcast. On that note, we're very excited to have a special guest, the creator of both versions of our intro music, Samsin, and he's going to talk about his meteoric rise to music stardom via SoundCloud. We're excited to talk about his music career, music production, get into all that, as well as any geek culture topics that he's willing to hit on. Let's hear his track that he made for us. Play the intro music.
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it?
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the Middle After Dark over here.
Man, that was awesome. I cannot wait to talk more to Samsin. But before we get into that, some of you know that our podcast platform we use is called Spreaker. And Spreaker inserts ads into our podcast if you listen to us from Apple Podcasts or any of the other podcast platforms. If you watch us on YouTube, you don't get those. So Spreaker tells us what ads we have to play. And we really don't have a say over those ads. The ads that we do have a say over are the ones that we read ourselves. And it was important to Dylan, Kendall, and I that we only talk about products that we're genuinely excited about. And I am excited to announce our partnership with Stello Mintz. Stello Mintz, company started by two really rad dudes from the West Coast. These are CBD mints. They have 3 awesome flavors: matcha, tea, peppermint, and lemon. And we're really excited about working with these guys. It's a really cool product. It just takes the edge off. If you run a little anxious, like you guys know I do, pop a mint or two, and it just quiets your mind, quiets the mind a little bit. Really excited to work with these guys. The packaging, by the way, just a quick side note, amazing. You got the little cardboard box in the mail. You open it up, you get a sticker. Who doesn't love a sticker? You get a referral card, as well as the actual tin themselves. And you know what's cool about these? It looks cool. It's not like something you'd get from your dad's pot shop. It's something that you'd be comfortable taking anywhere because it's just a sturdy tin of mints, something you'd be comfortable, whipping out at a business meeting or one-to-one, and like an Altoids mint or something, only way cooler. What do you guys think about this new partnership?
Honestly, I was excited to chat with the guys directly and hear from them. One of my biggest questions was like, what's the high impact use case? Like, where am I going to see the most benefit? And they had a whole list of things, but one that was kind of exciting for me, I actually took advantage of today. So I had several really important meetings back to back that I was going to be like hosting and running webinars. Took a couple Stello mints about 30-40 minutes before I got started, and all of that like anxious build up right before the call was just gone, and I was able to hop on those and do exactly what I needed to do and enjoy the experience. So I think the nice thing for me is it really is a whole experience that happens to be in a mint size form factor.
Yeah.
And it's something that you could easily throw in your pocket, your coat, your car, and it's just super easy to take with you. So definitely worked for me so far.
You guys have to try these for yourself. Go to stellomintz.com, fill your cart, and use promo code THEMIDDLE to get 10% off of all your orders. You'll be really glad that you did. We're legitimately excited and proud to be talking about this product, and just thank them for their partnership. So that's stellomintz.com. I highly recommend the matcha flavored tea. We gave Sam a few of those just a minute ago. So try those out and use promo code THEMIDDLE. So enough of the business stuff. Sam, thanks for having us. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
It's nice to finally talk to you a little bit. Really appreciate both versions of the intro music that you did for us. I love the new cut with sort of some of our quotes thrown in. You did a stellar job.
Yeah, that was fun.
And I know you're just like one of us. You're just like a fellow, geek about different fandoms and geek culture stuff, and
for sure.
have had a lot of success in the music space, and just excited to talk more about that. So,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
right on. On that note, like, what are some of the geek fandoms that you enjoy? Like, what are some of your, a lot of our listeners are Marvel, Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars would
Lord
be
of the Rings.
probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Star Wars a lot. That was pretty much all we watched as a family together.
Yeah.
That was like the one thing that we could all sit through and agree on.
Yeah.
Like The New Hope, the original 3.
Yeah.
Those were like
Yeah.
very formative years. And then when Episode 3 came out, that was when I kind of like decided, oh, this is actually cool.
Yeah.
It's not just like my dad's making me watch this. Like I actually also enjoy this.
Yeah.
Rogue One is my favorite.
Yeah.
Nice.
The new Solo movie I thought was decent.
Yeah.
I liked the Darth Maul, hint kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm mostly excited about the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series that's coming.
Yes.
Like when I first saw that online, I like felt like I was 11 again, got real giddy. And so I'm just waiting until
Ewan McGregor, man.
Yeah, that
Dylan's
was-
very excited.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like we create a safe space here for anyone that wants to like any of the films or trilogies that they want to like. With that said, would you just say the original trilogy is your favorite? Did you swing around to the prequels?
The prequels for me, it was almost like, because I've talked to my dad about it quite a bit, because he was like dead set on, the prequels are okay, but like the original trilogy, man, you don't understand the hype and like the culture effect or whatever. And for me, I don't think I would like the prequels as much if it weren't for the original trilogy, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the prequels were, to me, I was growing up and like, I don't know, like really starting to understand movies and like space and like sci-fi and that kind of stuff. And those, for whatever reason, like people always talk. Can I say shit?
Yeah.
People talk
Sure.
shit about like the boring like political aspect of the prequels, but to me, like now that I go back and watch them, I honestly enjoy that. Because I tend to like the more like slow burn movies now as an adult. So going back and watching them, it still is this. They have to. Episode 3 for me, and maybe even more Attack of the Clones, like that original fight scene when all the Jedi are down at Count Dooku's lair or whatever. That to me is like burned in my memory. I think about that all the time. And then when you see Mace Windu's purple lightsaber, like that,
Yeah.
there's just, you can't beat. I really appreciate the original trilogy, but I think it was just, it's like almost, and another part of it is like, I feel like my generation more specifically has been like so special effects. Like that's such a big aspect.
Yeah.
And the older movies are missing that a little bit. So gotta go with the newer ones.
That's great. I feel like the more I think about all the 9 core films, the more narrow the universe feels as the movies progress.
Yeah.
It feels like by the sequel trilogy, we're talking about a very small number of people.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate the world building more the more I reflect back. And look, I'm pumpkin spice basic, okay?
Right.
I don't understand kids and memes or whatever, but like I feel like memes and Ewan McGregor have almost single-handedly rejuvenated people around the prequels in a way where now it's like, well, I mean, this and this were kind of bad, but like the rest of it's great because Ewan McGregor and lightsabers and Jedi.
Right.
So I just appreciate the heck out of that. And so I agree. I think we all agree Rogue One was awesome. I think Han Solo was great for a movie nobody was asking for.
For sure.
And it's just been fun. Do you watch any of the animated Star Wars shows?
The original Attack of the Clones, like way back, like I think it was like 2003, 2004. They had like an anime artist come and do the animation.
Andy Tartakovsky did the Clone Wars. It was still called Clone Wars. Yeah.
My dad, when I think it was my, I want to say 9th or 10th birthday, he burnt me a DVD of the full series, and it had like a menu and everything. Like he went all out, and that was like
Nice.
Oh, dude, because when I was like 16, 17, I was really into anime. I had like a big like anime phase or whatever, and then my memory like got flicked. I was like, oh wait a second, like that's what that was. Because I didn't realize that they had brought on like anime illustrators to do the art for that.
Yeah.
And there's one scene in particular, I don't know I think they're all shorts, so it was just like one like 30-minute long like break on the DVD, so I didn't ever like watch them individually, but where Grievous is hunting the Jedi on that one planet after they've lost like the big ship, and that was like so anxiety like building when I was little, like oh my gosh, like he's gonna come and just destroy them.
Yeah.
And there was no like gore or violence or anything, but it was just like the way that they animated it and like made it scary, the way that the music like worked in that scene. And then there was another one with when Mace Windu was on a planet and he just like lost his lightsaber, got kind of messed up like under this like they had this huge like push pop like ship essentially where it would just like smack this huge hole in the ground, and it messed him up, and then he like came back and like punched all these droids for
I remember that scene exactly.
7 minutes, and I was just like, dude, this is the sickest thing I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
And he finds his lightsaber at the end, it's like glistening or whatever, and then he jumps like 2 miles away to like that little kid, and he's just like, yep, another day in the life.
Dude, I love that. I love hearing your perspective because you won't mind saying you're a bit younger than us.
Sure.
And I really appreciate how you said like the original trilogy informed you as to why you should care about the prequel trilogy, and then the prequel trilogy explains why you care
exactly
about it. And that was a really neat way to say it. That's cool, man. And I'm sure we'll spin off into a bunch of different rabbit trail conversations about geek culture stuff, but let's get into you and your music and your background. And speaking of age, this comment or question rather is going to age me, but
okay.
We had a photographer on once, and we were talking about this idea of the rise of the momtographer. It felt like there was this time in the early 2000s where anybody that was a stay-at-home mom, as the accessibility to cameras increased, a lot of these stay-at-home moms decided, I'm a photographer now.
Yep.
And I feel like, and I know this is true for my nephew, this was true for when I met you, like it seemed like there was a lot of junior high to high school and early college age, specifically young men, like who were making beats all of a sudden. And I was just like, what's going on? So I'd love to hear how you got into it. And like, do you think that, have you observed that, or did you observe that?
Definitely.
And then why do you think that is? And then as you started getting into it, how did you set yourself apart? There's a lot of questions. That's
a good question. I was not expecting something like that. Basically, the way I got into it was I wanted to start a band in high school with my homies.
Yeah.
We all were pretty good at music. A couple kids could play the guitar. I could play the drums and piano. And one of my friends was really, really, really good at singing, like super talented.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's all just like start a band and like at least try it. You know what I mean? Because me and my friends were already in band at that point. I had already played drums at church. Like music was like not the only thing I was good at, but it was definitely the most like rewarding thing that I was good at.
Yeah.
So I was like, and we all liked each other and all liked making music. So I was like, let's just make a band. We tried it for like 3 months maybe. And nobody else was like as down to like make music as I was. So I was like, all right, like how can I make music by myself and still get that like band or like large group feeling? Mm-hmm. And that was right at the same time that all of us had discovered like what dubstep was.
Yeah.
This was like when I was in like 8th grade, 9th grade. Dubstep, which at the time I didn't understand the impact that Skrillex had, and he still has. Like the fact that he released that album and got as popular as he did with that type of music at that time was ridiculous. And the fact that really like pushed me more into like, oh, this is dope. Like what else sounds like this? Because growing up, I only ever listened to like band stuff, like contemporary Christian music, or like I had dabbled in hip hop, but it wasn't really like, it was more of like a guilty pleasure that I didn't tell anybody about because I grew up in a very white, like suburban area. Yeah. So nobody was really like down to listen to Mos Def, but I still did. And so it was kind of like, what else is like out there? And when that came around, I was like, all right, like I'm just going to keep digging. And I remember I used to come home from school like every day and just look up like best dubstep drops this month, this year, like top 10 videos. And I would just listen to those all day. And eventually I just kind of went down this weird rabbit hole into this trap scene was what it was called at the time.
Yeah.
And it was more dumbed down, like Atlantic hip hop beats with no rap vocals over them. And I just slowly but surely found my way to SoundCloud, realized that there were other people who like didn't have a name that were also making beats the same way.
Yeah.
Like kids with like 100 followers were just like making stuff and posting it.
Yeah.
So then I started looking up how to do that, and then I just never stopped. So I basically bought this app for my iPad, and it was just like an 8-track, but it gave you like pre-made loops. And so I would just like upload the loops and try to like make my own sound out of these loops that some random German guy made in Germany or whatever. And I realized like, oh, this is all based off the platform Ableton, which is like a DAW or a DAW. And so I tried to convince my dad to let me download it on his work laptop one day when I was like 14. Took a while. And then I literally made beats like every day. I would text my dad like, can you bring your laptop home? And so he would bring his laptop home. I would make beats for a couple hours, and then he would take his laptop back to work.
Yeah.
And all day at school, I would just listen to trap music on SoundCloud that from kids that nobody knew who they were or like anything. And it just slowly progressed.
That's cool. I love that like initial exposure to it and like your thirst to like find more.
It was like so addicting.
Yeah.
At the beginning, like all I wanted to do was just find the next, like what's the next one going to sound like? Because with the internet, and I guess this goes to like answer the original question with like the accessibility thing, like the mom photographer or whatever.
Yeah.
It was almost like that was a good thing for looking in retrospect, that was a great thing for to happen to the beat scene, in my opinion, because it was like it wasn't like a bad like niche or like cringe like thing that everyone was making beats at that time, because you would just have random kids from anywhere uploading cool music, and it was just their own like little spin on whatever they had heard before or whatever, and so it just kept pushing the envelope. Like the envelope just kept. Unlike what I think like the mom photography thing is, like where it's just like moms uploading the same generic filter from Instagram and like, I'm a photographer. Like the music stuff, like it almost like if you're not unique, it's not dope.
Yeah.
It has to be different, but like still the same.
Yeah.
So it's just like this constant like avalanche of like progression and pushing things forward and like sending something to your friend that you met online. Like, dude, what do you think about this? And then I know in my position when I would get stuff like that, I'd be like, shit, like I got to make something doper than this, because like I can't be making stuff that was 6 months old, you know what I mean? Like I got to think 6 months ahead.
Yeah.
So
that's really cool. And I love picking things apart, like and trying to figure out the why. So I hear a couple things in there. I hear like one, it provided a community of people who were doing it,
for sure.
The same type of thing that you were hungry to discover and find. And then in that community, it doesn't matter if you're a well-known music producer or a 12-year-old kid. It's all merit-based traction. So you're getting interest based on the fact that people like your stuff.
Exactly.
And you're not hiding behind SoundCloud, but people don't know or care about.
I think it was like the best possible thing to happen to SoundCloud. And the fact that they turned their back on that community still really hurts my feelings to this day, because they basically like introduced this platform where it was like you had to be like verified and like you had to pay like money to like upload your stuff for a certain amount of time. But like at the beginning when I was like 15 and I was sort of late, I kind of caught it like right at the back half of like the era that I would say was like really, really dope. There was no like, hey, like follow me on Twitter or like check out my Instagram post. It was literally just like upload this track.
Yeah.
And then people would like it, comment on it, repost it, and then you would hear it, and then your friends would send it to you. And it's like, oh, I should put a song out today. Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Like there was no like promo. There was no like social media, like business marketing. Like it was literally just dope music uploaded by random people. And then if you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, you didn't. And then another thing that I thought was dope about SoundCloud was that it brought people together based on like what they thought was cool, rather than like, which I guess the internet does a lot now. Yeah. But at the time I hadn't really experienced that.
Right.
And it was like, what's cool? What's unique? What are you making? Like, let's hang out on Discord or Skype or whatever. and then like wake up and go to school tomorrow.
Well, 100% you could find other cool Christian kids who weren't allowed to listen to rap either, who were making music. So you found your people. You had the technology now to do it, so the accessibility went up. Now to the point where, bro, you got like over 16,000 followers on SoundCloud. You're with ABDC Records. ADBC. Yeah, I knew I'd get it wrong.
No, I got it wrong for like the first 3 months.
I don't even know if I said, is it Samson or Samsin?
Samson.
Samson.
It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm just like so aging myself right now. I'll let my co-host talk. I'm just so interested in this. And before we go too far off of that, I'm interested to hear what happened, because you just said SoundCloud turned their back on that community a little bit. So we can maybe get into that later, but you guys talk now.
Well, that was an awesome intro. And I think you mentioned the momtographer thing. So as technology got cheaper, more people could afford it, more people can do it. Well, now if you buy any Apple product, GarageBand is free.
Yep.
You can have an iPod Touch, you can have an iPad Mini, you can have a Mac. All of them can get on GarageBand. Apple has free classes at a store that can tell you how to do it.
Yep.
And you can sit there and work with somebody who will sit there all day and show you how to make music. Has that like saturated the creation community?
I think over the past, I don't know, 2 years maybe, it became like a thing. So that's where it would get more to the momtographer thing. But I wouldn't even say that was like a SoundCloud thing. That's more of like an internet thing, where it's like people posting beat videos on Twitter, and then it's like, oh, I make beats, I'm a producer. And it's like, dude, you dragged a loop over a loop and then put a loop underneath it and then said I made a track. It's like, I mean, we all start somewhere. I'm not trying to knock.
Yeah.
Follow your dreams and make music. It's dope. But like at a certain extent, it's like, you're not really a producer. You're not really making music. You're just like doing it because you saw someone else do it. And you're trying to, it's almost like an easy route kind of thing, where it's like we make hip hop beats. And I like making hip hop beats sometimes, but like at a certain, it's just like, it's different, I feel like. And I feel like the stuff that I make and the people that I associated with for a long time and still do, it's more than like hip hop beats. Mm-hmm. And so I think, like, to bring it back to the momtographer analogy, it's like there are still actual photographers doing innovative shit.
Right.
And then there's also this like front layer or top layer of moms just using Instagram filters. I think it's the same. It's a very good analogy. I hadn't really thought of it that way before.
Do you believe that the cream will still rise to the top?
Always.
Like you're certainly not gatekeeping. You're not saying
no.
And you just said it. You said people can start wherever.
I mean, that's how I started.
Yeah.
You know, I just didn't post it on Twitter. And that could be because Twitter wasn't really that big in 2012, 13. Like it's obviously a different time. TikTok is way like the virality of music now is way different than when, and I'm starting to age myself now too. It's just like, it's way different and it's the internet and it just moves quick and like you can get left behind, which I think I have to a certain extent. Cause I don't like social media. I don't like posting like every day or like posting videos every day or posting TikToks, and like it's just hard. But I genuinely think that the people who make really, really good music will stand out and like still be the people that everyone else tries to replicate.
Right.
And so at a certain point, that's kind of what I said to myself. I was like, I can go this route. I can not sell out, but like do the same thing that everyone else is doing with the posting and like the promos and like the Instagram activity and like making sure you're like have your pages set up properly. It's just like, to me, it's like that's not what it's really about. Like there was like, while I did enjoy making music because it was dope, like it also was like a therapy for me, where it was just like I can come home every day, make something that no one else is making, and I don't really care if other people listen to it. Which is why I loved SoundCloud, because like as much dopamine as you got from that little like notification coming up, like it was still like, to me at least, and I know for a fact other people and other homies that I have, it was much more of like a self-expression kind of like art thing. And so,
that was I'm envisioning as you're talking like a community that that is like self-feeding in this monster that's growing.
Exactly.
And that you found yourself in probably the second half of that, where you have these people that are not only finding each other and finding their own audience among one another, but also figuring it out. and that's something that is different that the technology has I think allowed, right? That it's like you're talking about people just like sending links and uploading tracks and people figuring things out, like guys, there's this new plugin. Here's what I did with it.
Exactly.
And then you have like thousands of other people listening to it and then saying, oh, now if you tweak that this way or add this other plugin to it, and it just thing evolves.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like this. The best way I can think of it is like a wave or an avalanche or something like that, where it's just like it's just growing the more it moves forward. And that is a good point. It's like you would upload something and it's like you didn't actually know what you were doing. It was just you were just trying to make something that sounded like this, or something that was better than this, or something better than the track you uploaded last week, and everybody's learning at the same time. That was the really cool part about it for me, was like watching, and it still is, like watching me and all my homies that still make beats, because obviously people like fall off and just give up and don't like it anymore, which is perfectly okay, you know. But like seeing the progression and like going back through and like feeling nostalgic about like your own music, or like, dude, remember when Matt like dropped that song? Like that's what I'll text Ryan. Like I have a couple friends that are really like, shout out Zadi, shout out Vide. Like those are my like day one like SoundCloud kids that we all just like used to like hop in Skype chords and Skype calls and do that stuff together. But I will text Ryan or even Matt sometimes about each other. Like we'll text each other about each other. About like, dude, remember when Zadi like uploaded that track in 2016? Like that was so crazy. Like, like that kind of stuff. And like now to see like what we're making now, and like who, and all of the like the next generation of kids, like of 15-year-old kids who are coming up now, and then like thinking about like, oh, dude, like they're pushing it further. Like, how do I keep up? And so it's just like this constant like, you said, like
so
a
when you
monster.
go back and listen to things that you and your friends were doing 5, 6, 8 years ago, what do you think when you go back and listen to some of that stuff?
I think, dude, why did I not compress this that way, or what was on my master chain, or like why did I put the reverb that way, or like, man, that snare sucks, or why is that so wide, like it needs to be mono, but stuff like that. And
I'm always questioning what was on my master chain.
Yeah.
Story.
That's the shit I think about, dude.
Of my life, bro.
Like, what was on my master chain when I made that? And I got rid of I didn't get rid of it, but it's pretty much just toast. But my MacBook that I bought like with all my graduation money to make beats and to use for school, quote unquote. That's how I justified it to my dad.
How'd that work out?
Yeah, I need this for school, but I lost. Well, I didn't lose, but it just basically like pooped out in the fall of last year. But it went strong. I bought it refurbished and everything, so shout out to that thing. And then I built a PC, so now all of those old like project files on that laptop, I can't like access them really. Like it won't really open anything. So I really am like just listening to old stuff, thinking like, what did I put on that to make it sound like that? And then just trying to like build off of that, and listening to old stuff. Like sometimes I'll go back and listen. Like SoundCloud has like a shuffle button on there. Like you can like play from your likes and then shuffle it. And I'll just skip through until I know the song was from like 2016 or 15 and be like, that was really dope back then. Like, how do I like what do I think about that now? Type thing.
So we're pretty deep in the SoundCloud weeds. To bring it back up to the surface, maybe who are some people that we know of that got discovered through SoundCloud, or is it even still used that way today?
I don't know of anybody that I pay attention to that you guys would know of. The only person I can think of that is like subjective, or I guess objectively popular.
Didn't Posty kind of blow up on SoundCloud?
Yeah, people talk about the SoundCloud rap thing a lot. Oh, okay, so like Lil Pump.
Okay,
you guys know who Lil Pump is, right?
Heard the name.
Yeah, it's just like this crazy SoundCloud rapper. But I remember listening to him when he had like no followers. Or XXX Tentacion.
Yep,
he's been canceled, but he blew up on SoundCloud too. Like I remember following him when he had no followers.
Yeah.
The only like real people to come up like hard were rappers.
Okay.
Or like Claro. You guys know who Claro is?
No.
She's like a bedroom producer, singer, songwriter, indie musician, but she's really dope. But I followed her when she had like 5,000 followers on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
And now she's like playing what's that one? thing, Coachella or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like, so it's more of like the vocalists that blow up.
Okay.
There's a guy named Masego who started out making beats at that time, and now he has like an Apple deal. Like, he was just in their like commercial. He plays the saxophone and sings and does his own production and stuff like that. So
I liken it to like early days of my art school time. Like Deviantart was the place where like
same kind of thing.
Anybody making any type of art posted their stuff to Deviantart, and that's where everybody was, and it was this community, and they were all kind of like genres of art, and of course there were posers who were literally just copying and pasting others' work. Same thing, but the cream would always rise to the top, and now some of these people are working for major film and game studios and doing concept art and character design for major companies. And it's like similarly, it's like people that I started following like when nobody knew who they were. And that's not like a hipster, like I knew them before they were cool, but it's just like you got to see, their work ethic and their stick-to-itiveness, and they were learning from everybody else. And that created this giant like funnel of making each other better. And it's just really cool to see. So now like you're enjoying like a significant following and putting out stuff pretty regularly. And it's just really cool to see, man. And you were like gracious enough to work on the music for the intro music for our humble little podcast. I think this might be a good spot to take a break. And before we do that, you've agreed to share an EP, a single from your new EP. So stick around. After the break, we're going to get to hear that. More with Samsin after we hear from one of our friends in the Odd Pods Media Network.
Hey, this is Russ.
This is Kyle.
This is Michelle.
From the Infectious Groove Podcast. Join us every Monday for the most fun you can have with a music podcast. The Infectious Groove Podcast uses a positive and fun approach as we take time every week to share our jammy jams, then dig into a thought-provoking topic discussing all decades and genres of music. You can find the Infectious Groove Podcast on all major podcast platforms, or you can head to infectiousgroovepodcast.com to find us there and subscribe. We might have a controversial opinion here or there, but we always have fun with it.
Oh, I'm sure I'll say something dumb.
Subscribe to the Infectious Groove Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Man, I love that podcast. Oh, they're great guys over there. So, Samsin, tell us a little bit about this track and this new EP before we give our listeners a listen.
The universal debut listen, by the way.
That's true.
Not just a listen.
Yeah. So after COVID hit, I didn't have any money because I got laid off, like a lot of people. And I had to move to a lodge in Centerburg by myself.
A lodge?
A lodge in the middle of the woods.
That sounds awesome.
Oh, dude, it was the best 6 months of my life, like straight up. There was nobody around, nobody else in the house. It was just me and my cat. And I basically just locked myself in a room and wrote an EP. And it was...
How romantic.
It was like... Well, the funny thing about it was like I had always wanted to do it. Like for years, I had envisioned myself like in a cabin making music by myself, loud at 3 a.m. with no one else around. And I actually got to do it, which was crazy. So I basically spent those 6 months just writing and just staying up ridiculously late by myself and making beats and playing a lot of video games. And it was crazy. So I bought a Tascam field recorder at Sam Ash or something for like $50, and on this track it was like storming outside, and I had the windows open. It was like fall, and so I just like recorded the rain or whatever, and then just used that to make. Basically that was like the source of the inspiration was water.
Yeah.
So that's this track.
And what's it called?
Water.
Water. Awesome.
Water.
So let's give it a listen. Bro. Maybe it's just the Stello Mintz. But that was awesome, man. I love the synth notes feeling like, I mean, maybe this wasn't your, but like felt like water droplets. The high synth that was cool, man.
Definitely.
So what's that EP called?
I think Cycles.
Okay. Still officially
Still
untitled.
unofficial. That's what I've named it, like in my emails to the label and stuff. But
That's awesome.
I think
man.
it'll probably stick because I actually drew the album art.
Oh, cool.
My girlfriend does like a lot of illustration stuff, so she has Procreate on her iPad.
Yeah.
And one night I was just like, "Can I try this?" And I drew something like pretty dope. At least I think it's dope.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, I'll probably just use this." And then I sent it to a couple of people and like, "Yeah, you should use that." So I think I'm gonna use the. If I show it to you, you'll understand what I'm saying. It's a bunch of circles and it looks like a cycle. But anyway.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's Water from Cycles by Samsin, the world premiere right here on From the Middle podcast. Thank you for sharing that, man.
Of course.
And this is probably like a really I mean, this is like asking a comedian where they come up with their material. But
yeah.
is that how you come up with a beat? Like, is that usually what inspires you? Is like just going through life and like in this case, it was the rainstorm. Because a lot of your album art is like Forest Floor is one of my favorite of yours, and like the album art is like the canopy of the trees above and stuff like that. Like what strikes you?
I think there are two like main things that I've been able to conceptualize looking at myself objectively. As funny as it is, like Star Wars, space, sci-fi stuff mixed in with like nature.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like the two like abstract-y kind of like things that inspire my music. I like to think of like like walking on an alien planet, looking at like some sort of like temple or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like video game music is another big inspiration. And then just life, like emotion, like trying to get like an emotion that I'm feeling out into like whatever the world, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's another big thing for me. Is just like I said earlier, it's just like it's basically a therapy for me.
Yeah.
Like I guess I'm not afraid to. I've struggled with depression and anxiety my whole life, and the music thing has definitely like kept me sane, kept me alive.
Yeah.
I think having like a creative outlet for anyone, even if you suck at it, like you have to. Creating stuff is like the best cure for in my opinion, mental struggles, mental illness. Like, I don't think I would be anywhere close to where I am without music. I would go as far to say I wouldn't be alive without music. It definitely like in the times of my life where I was struggling the hardest, music was the thing that was there for me no matter what. Always being able to just like express some sort of emotion, even if it sucks and no one hears it. Like, I got this anger out of me, or I got this sadness out of me, even if the chords suck or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. It's so for music, like for me, that's what music is. It's just like an outlet.
Yeah.
To express myself, and if I want to get like philosophical about it, then the Star Wars and the nature stuff like affects me a little bit.
Yeah. So it's great that you say that, because it. You know, I believe personally that we were created to be creative.
Oh, for sure.
And to have an outlet like this is it's something different. So if you were playing an instrument, just playing guitar or drums or keyboard or whatever it is, you can certainly get through some of that, but I think the ability to record and create a product, it's almost like you can journal through files, right? And which is something that's relatively new. So before, back in the day, the only way to get something recorded, like that was a studio only proposition. Yeah. People couldn't do this before. And if you wanted to put something together, it had to be collaborative, because you needed other musicians, because you couldn't afford a studio. And you needed to get together, needed to practice all the time and put things together. And for 99.9% of the musicians out there, like that idea is dead on arrival because of what you said earlier, that like you need 4, 5, 6 people who are all on the same page with the same commitment level. That's almost impossible to find.
Oh yeah.
And so now, like you've talked about, anybody with a laptop and some halfway decent plugins can can create something now and they can record it.
Yeah.
How do you think, when it comes to artistic expression, do you feel like that's something now today, that's sort of the I don't want to be cliche and think starving artist here, but that's something that the artist has been yearning for, the ability to do something like this on their own and have it at their fingertips? Are we at sort of a golden age now that where we weren't before?
I think it is definitely a revolution when it comes to music. I think you wouldn't, like I said earlier, like Claro, or what's another good example? I mean, Mac DeMarco is kind of the same way if I want to like relate to someone. But the idea that you can just sit down and record all of the parts by yourself, and then if you want to show it to a band, but you don't have to, you can just trigger loops from stage. I mean, who's popular that does it? Ed Sheeran. He does the loop triggering stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need... That's why, I mean, recently I've been getting really into like Beatles, Pink Floyd, stuff like that. And it's my appreciation for them has grown so much because I've begun to realize like those dudes were all sitting there at the same time working on that music together. They were all on the same page, understanding like, okay, this is going to happen, like, and they were all really good. And the odds of that happening is literally lightning. It's literally so rare for bands like that to pop up. I mean, at the time it was probably like the thing to do, but I think right now the way that the internet works and the way that technology is moving, it's just going to become more accessible. The virality of the internet has changed. There are no more viral videos. It's all viral. Anything can be viral. I mean, there are multiple videos with 20 million views, 30 million views. There are multiple songs with 30 million views, 20 million views, etc. So the ability for literally anyone with a laptop or an iPad, even if it's like bad, like I said, like mine was like a 2013 refurbished Apple Mac that I bought for like $700 at Best Buy. Like it wasn't, and I know not everybody has $700, but you get my point. Anybody with a little bit of access to something, there are free plugins, free DAWs. Like you said, GarageBand earlier comes with, if you have an iPhone, you get GarageBand. I mean, one of my favorite artists, Sam Gellatry, he has this song on SoundCloud that he made in an airport on his phone, and it is sick. And it's just like, dude, like anybody can do this. If you work hard enough. I think there is a little bit of like talent. Obviously, it's hard to just like train yourself to be a musician if you don't like have musical talent. But I definitely think it's a revolutionary time in music, for sure.
I think those like shot on iPhone photo video commercials kind of remind us of that.
Yeah,
I was just
and you'll
thinking
see some people that are like, that'll show an album like this entire wedding was shot with, like a stand and an iPhone and a clamp, or the videos that they do. And I just, because so many people buy the phone first for photography, whether they are just using it for a backyard barbecue picture or because they want to be a photographer, I don't think it's quite settled in that you can literally use an iPod or iPad or iPhone to make music.
Yeah.
But I think people are starting to get it because we're seeing the first major evolution of that, I think, with things like TikTok which was basically Vine.
I miss Vine, man.
And a lot of that stuff, like we're figuring out how much content we can create with a phone.
Yeah.
And I think, the same thing will keep happening as people realize like, whoa, there's music editing software out here. There's video editing software. I can literally shoot commercials on my phone.
I don't think I could be mistaken, but there's this guy named Steve Lacy. He used GarageBand to create a whole album. He got signed to like some major record label, and I'm pretty sure he won a Grammy. I'm 90% sure he won a Grammy.
Yeah, let's go with it. We won't fact check it.
Yeah, no fact checking here, but yeah, he's crazy.
I'm fascinated by this idea that, because Dylan, I was right where you were, of course, Wonder Twins, with the like you could shoot an entire movie on an iPhone, not an Android for sure, but it's like it's saturating all of those markets at the same time as it's the great equalizer.
Yeah,
like it's adding too much noise into the machine, but the cream will still always rise to the top.
I honestly think that it's a good thing that it's oversaturated.
Yeah.
Because I think that like mediocre art or mediocre like work gets recognized where it's like for what it is. So the great is that much better. Like you have to be that
Yeah.
much better than the other, like the next person,
Because
in
you
order
had
to
to
like pop off.
overcome all
Because
those
there's just
other.
endless amounts of content, like endless. We can't even like, no single person could watch or consume all of the content. And so the fact that if you want to like make it, or like make it quote unquote, if you want to like produce something dope that other people think are dope, you have to like
Yeah.
really, really try and like set yourself above and like pursue it and work hard and have talent. And I think another thing that I enjoy about the internet more than like traditional media is it's not as controlled. There isn't like this like label executive telling you like, oh no, you have to like do this certain way.
Right.
Like the Milli Vanilli people, is that their name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that won't happen.
Right.
That can't happen anymore because literally like 2 weeks ago, there was this guy who was uploading like beat videos on TikTok. He was stealing the beats from someone else. He wasn't even playing. He got rolled on Twitter. Like thousands and thousands of people were like responding to him like, dude, you're a fraud. Like, how could you do this? Like, you stole this from X, Y, and Z, like whatever. And it's just like, yeah, like you can't, because there is that like you said, that barrier is now down. It's like you have to either be good or mediocre, and the good people are just pushing the good people, and the mediocre is putting that like that bottom level up.
And the mediocre too, because you mentioned it earlier. I hate the social media game for both
Awful.
for both our podcast, for my Hubble Arts like freelance business, for like I hate
It's so fake.
Like
It's so
you've
not
gotta,
human.
You've got to be consistent. You've got to post multiple times a day. If you post at 2:30 on Wednesdays, like all that stuff is nauseating.
Yeah.
So-
And try not to look needy while you're doing it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
You can't
use
don't
hashtags, but-
Ask, but not ask enough. Like, don't ask too much. Like,
So there's that, and I wonder like. I think the good will rise to the top. The decent, if they're good at that game, can rise
Exactly,
to the
dude.
top, and then everybody else is just the masses.
yep.
And I just like sometimes, and not to be nasty, but like I think our content naively, I think our content is pretty good. Like I have conversations with these two that I would love to have or listen to.
Sure.
But because we don't play the social media game as well as some
Right.
others who are huge, and you listen to their content and you're like, it's all right.
I think it is kind of scary. I will say there is like a downside to it with the social media game. I have recognized that some people in the scene, even like my small scene, that they play that game and so their numbers are better, even though I would argue that there are people who are way, way better than them. Not to be like elitist or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's all subjective. If you like a certain song, listen to it. But they play that game so well. They're so active online. They know how to tweet like funny things. Like I'm funny to a certain extent. Like my friends think I'm funny, but like it's hard to convey my sense of humor online. And that's like the only. I'm not gonna take like the mysterious like woe is me artist route because that's dumb. And you know what I mean? So it's like I have to pick. It's almost like you have to pick a lane. You want to be funny.
Yeah.
You want to be like
Good
cringe.
point.
You want to be like ironic.
the bohemian.
Yeah, the bohemian,
cool.
like cool. You want to be like. You have to like pick an avenue to push your art to in order to even get people to click on it. And so like while I would say that the cream the cream of the crop rise to the top. Is that what I'm saying?
It is now.
It is now. And but it's like you still have to play that game to a certain extent, which I think is the main problem with the internet right now, in my opinion, as someone who doesn't like being on the internet too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even as I think about the podcasting world, like it probably took us going from 10,000 podcasts to 10 million different podcasts to get enough people all talking about it.
Yeah.
And some creators are probably watering it down. Some are actually contributing. But I think it takes that many people attempting to create to get enough people talking to make it mainstream.
Right.
And now you see sort of people who would never really have been in the tech world who are like, yeah, I found this podcast on my phone as I was, and I think that helps. I mean, I think it helps get the conversation going.
Sure.
And you just hope that if you're creating the right content, people will find it ultimately, if you're not willing to play that social media game.
That's kind of where that's like the mindset that I've had over the last like year or so, because right before COVID, I was like, this is what I have to play this game. Like I have to tweet, I have to post on Instagram. Like I have to do this if this is what I want to do. And so during COVID, I was making beats every day, posting on social media all the time. And eventually I was just like, this is fake. Like this isn't actually who I am. I'm not gonna like do this just to make this tiny dream like a reality, to sell my like personality, who I am, you know what I mean? And so I've just decided I'm just gonna make art and put it out, and if people like it, they like it, and I'll just keep doing it until I die. And I took the longest break I've ever taken from social media and music over the summer. I took like a month off. Like I was touching music every single day since 2015. I was touching Ableton every single day for that long. And I took a month break and I was like, okay, like I'm still alive. Like,
Didn't die.
I didn't die. Like it's okay. Like the world is still, the sun comes up. Like it's all right.
How good did you feel after that? Where like, because you said it's therapy,
Yeah.
and I can relate to the anxiety and depression
Yeah.
thing. And for me, that's art, visual art. Like,
Sure.
and this is a creative outlet.
Yeah.
You know, it's different for me, but it's one I enjoy. Like to not care about that game, which you've said is a facade, and I agree. And just like do what you love because you love doing it, not caring what anybody thinks, because it's therapy and it's,
Yeah.
you know, in my opinion, the act of creation is as close to God as you can get, right?
Absolutely.
And you're just like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the strange paradox is people can tell you're doing that
Yep.
and you're being truly unique and different, and they are attracted to that.
Yep.
And so like then you get more results from that
I think so.
because people can tell you're enjoying it.
That's my hope. And
Yeah.
I've literally made the best music I've ever made
Yeah.
in like 3 months. I made the most, I wrote the most and made the best music I've ever made after that break. And like
Yeah.
after that internal look at like, what am I actually, like, what's the actual goal behind what I'm doing? Because when you're a kid and you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna like make beats and it'll be fun. I'll be famous. I'll be a famous DJ. Like I want to be Skrillex.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, like sure. Some people can do that. I've seen people. I've literally watched people do that. Like
Yeah.
I have homies who do that.
Yeah.
I've seen it, and I think that it takes a very specific type of personality. I think it takes like I don't know. I want to be careful. Not a lack of self-worth, but a lack of like self-understanding to where it's like, I'm just going to be online all the time and post whatever I want. Like I can't do that. Like I just can't sit there and be active on Twitter and be active. Like it's just not who I am.
It's
so
interesting. It's almost like you become, it sounds to me like you become a slave to something else.
Yeah.
Like I was prepared to ask like the music industry contrasting question, right? Which, you know, it used to be a small handful, literally like 4 labels ran the
everything.
world.
Yep.
And today that is no longer true. And so other mediums that are just looking for music for commercial reasons, they have a lot more and cheaper
Right.
avenues that they could pull from if they want to, and they often do. And so what you had a problem with before, when we're talking about sort of the purest artistic expression, I'm going to do what I want to do, and if other people like it, so be it. Kind of attitude is one that didn't lend itself back in the day to the label companies, because they were controlling everything. They owned the final master tracks, not you.
Right.
And so you did what they told you to do.
Right.
You went where they told you to go. And so now we often think in the indie world, everything is better,
Right.
but it's not, right?
not.
People are still serving money.
It's almost worse because it's like, it's not, sometimes I wish there were 4 people telling me what to do with social media.
Yeah.
And now it's like, there's a million people telling me to do it with social media. There's endless amounts of people doing the same exact thing, that we're all trying to do the same thing, which is get our art heard. I almost wish that there was still 4 people telling everybody what to do, because then at least that way it's like, okay, well, I just have to shoot to have 4 people. Maybe the art will be good enough to like make it through to where, because now as good as it is, it's still a negative, that endless sea of like, it's hard to stand out, especially if you have to play that game. So
Yeah. So switching modes just a little bit. So you've done live performances before.
Sure.
And this is a question coming out of pure ignorance.
Okay.
because I don't know if I'm mixing two different worlds here or not, pun intended. So when you perform live, is there any live mixing going on?
Yes.
Then and there, or is it just playing tracks? Is it both, or am I, or is that two different performers and two different types of performances?
There's two main. Yeah, there's maybe three.
Mark Rebier.
There's like one, and then like a sub layer underneath that one, and then a completely different one.
Okay.
So there's, Mark. What's his last name?
Mark Rebier.
Rebier. Yeah.
Luke
So
Daddy.
there's yep. So there's Mark. There's Porter Robinson, which is another dope dude. There's Ed Sheeran, I guess you could technically say, where they are like playing the thing, looping it live, and then adding, and then that's how they build the songs they've already written and already put out. They do that live. Then there is DJing, which is essentially just cue one song or maybe two, cue another one, and then mix them into each other. Or you can have up to 4. I mean, you could probably have up to 8 at this point, but like you understand what I'm saying. Like you're just mixing a track into another track on a DJ like turntable, essentially. And then there's a subsect underneath that one, which I would almost say is just like DJing, but instead of mixing with like a mixer, you're doing, there's like the Akai or maybe the Ableton Live push, where you're queuing up tracks in maybe like smaller segments. You're not recording it live, but you're taking your pre-recorded like MIDI file or your pre-recorded audio file and then triggering it that way, and then mixing that and like doing that multiple times over top of each other.
Right. So it's like you're playing a track into a looper.
Sure.
And
yep. But you're not playing any instruments
Right.
live. It's just
the track is
strictly doing
pre-recorded.
that. Yep.
But you're looping it and then mixing within this looper live is kind of how I'm thinking about it.
Yep. So there's DJing / mixing, and then there's the Mark
Rebier.
Rebier.
Because his are all improv. Like unlike Ed Sheeran, where his might be like, I've already written this song, I'm just going to recreate it live.
Right.
Mark's are like, I'm just going to do whatever happens and whatever song comes out.
He's almost like a comedian.
It's like live
a satire
performance.
comedian kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's something. Yeah.
He is something. He's like a new like. First time I saw him, I was like, "What is this gonna be for real?" Like,
I know people don't know how to take him.
yeah, he's dope though.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, it's like, there's skill there.
Yeah, there's definitely
And something. And something.
There's
Yeah.
definite skill there, and it's
Yeah.
very new. Whatever
Yeah.
he's doing.
Whatever he's doing is very new.
Yeah,
Robe included.
So that's what the kids need to get into today.
That's right.
yeah, that's the future.
And find a community. And
That's the future.
This is such a boring question, but I think it helps our listeners. Like, if you had to classify, and I know it's all different, each track is different, but
Sure.
like, are you putting it into the dubstep? Are you putting it into like some of your stuff has like a house feel?
Sure.
Like, how do you classify it?
I don't know.
Storytelling
is my like coined term that people like to associate with my name, which is honestly good because I kind of gave it to myself, to be honest. 'Cause
Yeah.
SoundCloud has a storytelling tag,
yeah,
and it is in no way
yeah.
supposed to be used for I think electronic music. I think it's more for like bedtime story type shit. But I basically just like took that because I was like, what else is, because it is weird and there is no name for it. Like I've asked people like, what are we supposed to call this? The most popular answer is bounce music.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, I don't know if it was originally coined by Montel299, who's just like this SoundCloud kid, but he basically put 2099 bounce on all of his tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And so then people started doing like I do 111 bounce,
Mm-hmm.
or like there's this guy named Komanichi who's really dope. He does like Nietzsche bounce.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it is like bounce, because it is bouncy. There is like a very like bouncy kind of like head bobby like aspect to most of it.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people now. I just
Okay.
say bounce music, and I doubt you can search bounce music and find anything because it's not really like it's not like a genre.
Yeah.
But I just say like experimental hip hop beats
Yeah.
with melodies.
You know, boring people. They're always trying to find the simplest word.
It's kind of not good to not have a name for like what we're making, because like if you make rock, you can just hey, I make heavy metal, man. Like
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Or I make classic, or I'm a singer songwriter. There's no like. It's hard to be like, oh, I'm a producer, because then people get like the, I don't know, like the Steve Albini kind of like vibe where you're like, oh, you're like making music for other people, or like you're doing this, or like,
Yeah.
oh, I make beats. Like, oh, who do you work with? Like that kind of thing. It's like, I don't me. Like
It almost becomes like, which questions do I want to avoid? And
Well,
like,
yeah.
dude,
that's what I was gonna say.
straight up.
A very good-
straight up.
A good musician answer to that question is something along the lines of, dude, I'm just the artist who makes the thing.
Yeah.
Other people get to answer that for me.
Yeah, that is very much more like a
That's good.
artistic approach.
Well, anytime there's a new genre, somebody lives in that ambiguous space beforehand that it wasn't defined until enough people started
Right.
doing it. So I think anyone listening can just start hashtagging bounce on all social platforms.
I think so.
And we'll just create a new genre.
That sounds like a good
from
idea.
this episode. And really, you guys did the work, but we're
Yeah.
going to start the hashtag.
That's what I've been telling people. Like at new jobs or like if I meet someone, they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I make beats. Like, "Oh, like what kind of beats?" Like, bounce music. Then I always get like "Oh, you make dubstep? Like you make dubstep music?" It's like, dude, no, but sure, I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean-
like,
Well, when did house music start? That wasn't that long ago, right?
it was in Detroit at some point. It was like I think it was the 80s in Detroit.
So that wasn't even a thing, that long ago. So every genre's got to start
Yeah,
somewhere.
they called it house for the most obvious. They did house parties, and
Sure.
so it was like 4 on the floor was house music.
And now you've got Tropical House, which I doubt they're playing in Detroit.
Yeah,
So-
probably not.
my
Yeah.
favorite. It's just that 124 beats per
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah,
have
the
it
whole
on all
time.
day.
Same like steel pen Omnisphere plugin. It was like dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super good.
Yeah, it's great.
It's no bounce, but
It
it's
is not
great.
bounce.
Oh, that's awesome. This is fun, man. Kendall, did you have any more philosophical music questions? Or
No, I don't
this has
think
been really fun. Like I think we've hit it from all angles.
I want to ask, only because you mentioned you played a lot of video games. So what games do you like to play?
I play right now. My one is Valorant. I've been
Okay.
playing a lot of Valorant. Like a lot of Valorant.
Okay.
My girlfriend hates it, but I love it, dude. It's so fun. In terms of like RPG, story RPG, I played the most recent one I played was Cyberpunk. I got through the
After the bugs.
I bought it initially because
really?
I was just like, dude, I'm just gonna play it regardless. It didn't really bother me. There was I got locked on like one level, but then I just like loaded a quick save or whatever.
Were your genitals hanging outside of your jeans?
Dude, yeah. the character creation shit was wild, dude.
That was one of the
choose-
glitches. If you didn't know, like
it's amazing.
you could
Yeah.
choose the size of your genitals
There was a size option.
in your.
Straight up.
And if you selected a size too big, it glitched and would hang outside
Yeah.
of your pants.
I'm pretty sure that was a glitch.
Yeah.
Because
He wasn't referring to in the studio where they hanging.
I feel like a developer somewhere was chuckling and sent it. Like, that's
Probably,
what I
yeah.
Hey Bill, look what I did! It's going
My,
out this way.
my guess with that is like they already knew it was going to be really buggy, and they were like, "This one is kind of funny, so we might as well just
we
leave
could
it in."
slip it in.
The memes could help the game for
For sure, yeah. I don't know. I thought that game and the story was really dope. I played Breath of the Wild on Switch. That was the last like RPG that I played.
Such a
That game that was ridiculous because I played Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time growing up.
Yeah.
And I was huge. Like that was like those were the games that I played. Yeah, Breath of the Wild was literally the best. Like it made me feel like a kid again.
So
like I did
immersive.
not want to put that game down. Like I stayed up and played it for like 8 hours one night and just ran around and picked up berries and mushrooms and stuff and like.
Do you
made
have
stuff.
any Easter egg music tracks that are like this is a secret nod to Star Wars or Zelda or
Every song is a
Yeah,
nod
yeah,
to
yeah.
Star Wars. I tweeted something. I tweeted something last week. I was like, if the flute doesn't sound like Star Wars, I don't want to hear it. And that is straight up. That's how I feel. Like every time I put a flute in the song, I'm like, is this melody sound like it could be in a Star Wars
Yeah.
TV show or movie? And then all right, it works.
Every new episode or every new song release, just start tagging Lucas.
Oh, dude, that's a
Lucasfilm,
good idea.
And just to see if you can get like, hey, you're gonna have a bunch of new shows coming out.
He
Dude, they
doesn't
had-
play the game, Dylan.
Dude, they had his name's I forget his last name, but I think his first name is Lucas. But he did
George.
no, not George Lucas. The Childish
Thought I had
Gambino.
one.
Childish Gambino's producer.
Okay.
He did the soundtrack and like audio design for The Mandalorian.
Yeah, the
There
behind
was
the
a
scenes
lot
on that
of-
dude is interesting.
There was a lot of like trap elements in a lot of those episodes. Like I could hear like 808 hi-hats that I have like clicked through before. And I thought that was really dope. I think the end goal would be to do either a video game or a movie.
That was my next question. Like, what are your aspirations? You'd like to break into that space?
I think that would be like the best thing that fits because I like playing live, and I think some of my songs do well live. Other people have played them out. I've played them out. They do okay. But it's more of like I think of the music as more of like a painting, where it's more of like an experience or an audio painting is the best way that I can like describe what I'm trying to do.
One of your tracks had the word biome in it, and I was like, yeah, you're trying to create a space with music, and Water had some music or some video gamey pieces to it. I could see that lending itself to that.
Yeah, it's the escapism ideal is something that I enjoy trying to pursue, trying to put the listener somewhere that isn't like there, where they can like come home and listen to it, and they're in the car and they're listening to it and they're somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think that is like important.
So how do people find you? That's a perfect segue. Like, what's the best spot? SoundCloud?
Yeah, so every social, I've gotten it down. Every social is Samsin 111. SAMSIN 111.
You should come on our 111th episode. That would be really cool.
That would be really dope.
Yeah,
that'd be perfect branding and
it would make a lot of sense.
I know.
So Samsin 111 on all socials. Man, thanks for coming on. It was
thanks for having me.
Anything you want to plug other than your EP and your socials?
Follow ADBC Records on.
That's ADBC. Get it right, folks.
Yeah, ADBC. Shout out to Great Dane. This boy.
Awesome. We'll tag some of these guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Play the game.
Also, like discussing the historical eras, ADBC, if you want an easier way to remember it.
I'm pretty sure.
Is that
I haven't talked to him like specifically about it, but I'm almost like 100% sure that's intentional.
That's awesome.
Easier to remember.
It's pretty dope.
Well, be sure to get all your men's grooming products at artiusman.com. That's ARTIUSMAN.com. Use promo code The Middle for 25% off your first order. And if you want to take a little edge off, if you run a little anxious like Sam and I, and you would like some CBD mints, go to Stello, STLLO, mints.com, STELLO, mints.com. Use promo code The Middle for 10% off. Gosh. All your orders, I recommend matcha flavor, and we really appreciate the partnership with those guys. Samsin, thank you so much, man. This has been a blast.
Thanks.
We covered Star Wars, we covered music, and we even threw in some Zelda and video game stuff. That was awesome. So be sure to tune in next week. Our episodes drop every Wednesday. Thank you. See ya. Be safe. Love each other. Do art. Bye.
Peace.